Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. Today I'm coming back to my Lantana. If you remember when I pruned them, I indicated that I don't know much about them. So I've wanted to see what the tree has given me and to see what I have to work with, see how it grows back, if it indeed grows back. So there are two I want to look at and probably prune again, prune further. And then there were three in a big pot that I hadn't repotted. I want to do that today again as well, and I hope for the same results. I've been managing to keep the temperature in the greenhouse here at night in the 50s, the mid 50s. Last night was our first frost and I was able to maintain the temperature. So things have done okay. I brought all my tropicals in the house today because I don't want to be spending the money heating the greenhouse. But let's take a look at this Lantana and the other one that I had repotted and prune back further. Maybe do some structural selections and whatnot. I certainly didn't pick a front. I mean, this probably is the time to do that. So do it with me. Okay, so here you have the Lantana in its really ugly mica pot. One that had been chewed upon by rodents. Bears the scars, but it's as sturdy as can be. This tree will grow out in this pot before I ever think about putting it in a nice pot. There's some things I want to do today. Picking a front is the utmost, so let me zoom in a little bit and I want to talk it through with you. Now, for those of you who watch my channel, you'll know that I am a fan of Xavier and his Bonsai Retreat, formerly Expressions of Grace Bonsai, and I'm a real fan of his blue background. So since my background is a shower curtain, I did not rest until I found a blue shower curtain that somewhat approximates Xavier's background. I hope it's doing for you what I think it should. It certainly does for me. Most of what I'll be showing you is varying shades of brown and green and sometimes a flower. Do those show up nicely on this blue background? I think they do. And without further ado, let's talk about structure. I'm just putting this stick here so that I can line this up with you. Let's talk about this as a front. Well, first let's talk about how this tree responded to the last pruning. As you can see, I pruned back to a leaf set. It was maybe not the first, but the old leaves have fallen off, and new growth has come out in two directions here. Everywhere that I made a cut. If it matters that I cut back to a leaf, if I cut this back to here, I'm cutting back to an already bifurcated area, and that should take off. There's a lot of vigor going up here, so if I cut it short, I should be able to redirect that vigor. This trunk is going up pretty straight with no taper. I could get some taper by just cutting it off here. If this is the front, and I think it should be, this branch is coming right out toward the viewer. It's not an eye poker, it goes up, but it, you know, I have a legitimate back branch that you can't see because of it. And there's also one in the middle here that's getting in the way of seeing that. And if I cut back and I continue this growth, I love this down here, so I would cut this back to there. I think I have the start of a very nice tree. This shows off the Nabari. You know, unfortunately, there wasn't much happening on this side, and I'll try to zoom in on that when we get to this part in the editing, but this isn't bad. So I think, I really want to be careful here. I think this branch needs to come away. And this branch just broke away. So that's that. This branch was coming away anyway. I'm trying to root the cuttings from the initial pruning. They're not looking great. So if anyone has done this and can post a tried and true method, I sure would appreciate it. All right, I'll clean that up. I think I'm going to take this branch off as well. You can see these branches are very stiff. And it's kind of cool that they are. I could get a little bit of a bend in them if I really wanted a wire, but you know, let's try clip and grow. I got some green right here. I want to get back to that front. That is coming out the front, that I probably could direct slightly off to the side, and it seems to be growing that way anyway, which would make a nice location for a branch. I mean, there's even green right here. So I could actually cut back to there and have a nice back branch that would help fill in the middle here. All right, let me clean up where that branch broke away, plus an old pruning stub, if I can get a good grip on it from here. That looks good. I take away that front branch. That's asking a lot. But if I take it away to here, I do have two buds, or at least former locations of leaves that are going in a nice direction. That is a bar branch with this one. And it's not far away from here. So I think something has to go in the front. And I'm going to let this little guy grow, but I'm going to do away with this entirely. There's a bit of a collar there, which I think I'll clean it up, but it tells me that maybe the tree was having the same thoughts that I was. All right, this I already said I was going to take down to here, and I will right now take it down to there, leaving a little bit for dieback because I still don't fully understand this tree. If I go by what I'm seeing, it'll die back to the node. Here's a dieback place, here's a dieback place. So that's what I meant when I said, let's see what the tree gives us. So I want to make this flatter. This one's good. This is good. I said I got a little bit of green here. I'm going to count on that. And I'm going to cut it back to there. This is severe. All right, is that my front? That could still be my front. I like this back branch, although if you look at it from here, it's long and straight. But if you keep the front where I had it, you don't even see that part. All you'll see is what's growing out to the right. And I don't care if that breaks any rules or not. I'm cutting it back. I don't think it does. You got to know what your tree is doing. And you're only going to get that by growing out your tree and observing it. It tells you stuff. You just got to listen. I have one choice here with the choices I've already made, I think, and that's to get rid of this and shorten this. There's a bud right there. I'll take the... I'm just going to clean up some old leaf locations and whatnot. Old pruning stubs. So what to do about this branch? Well, there's a cluster of internodes here that really interests me. There's a big distance here, but I have a cluster right there. And that could be a very nice feature coming at the viewer from the side like that. So I'm going to cut to that cluster. And this little bonsai is pruned up, and maybe that's the front. I don't know. Maybe that's the front. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, here is Lantana number 2 that is reacting in the exact same way as Lantana number 1. This one I have in an unglazed ceramic, I guess it's terracotta pot, and it's a little nicer, and it fit nicely in this pot. So let's examine the structure, or let's examine how it reacted to being pruned. In the exact same way at the cut point and further down from the cut point, in many of its locations, it has sent out a shoot, and there's budding down below. You can see some green. And, you know, I think when I bring these indoors, they're really going to take off. We have a plant room in the front of the house, and I'm begging my wife for, at least for these trees, to be in that room. Because last year I had them in there. I thought I had killed them when I cut them back and brought them in the house. And they came back very much like this. So I see how it has recovered from its pruning. And I want to see if I can make something different out of this. I'm trying to see what I like as the front. If I want to hide that defect, then this is the front. If I want to accentuate that defect, then somewhere around here can be the front. But this is going to be a very small tree, and if I remember correctly, I did a pretty good job with the roots on this tree, and I think they had a nice start for being radial. So I will be raising this tree up probably midsummer. Beautiful taper here. Not much going on there. So I'm going to opt for this as the front. I'm going to pray that there's enough life in this tree to bounce back from a pruning down here. And this is interesting. I mean, there is a downward and an upward facing bud there. Well, let me clean up this middle here so I can see better. You know, there's buds alternating front to back here, side to side here, front to back here. It should grow from those points. I don't have quite as many choices here, but as I was starting to say, there's a bud here headed up and one below it going down. And if this is true to form, it'll activate both of those buds. I'll take that chance. All right, I think that's a cute little live lantana tree. My wife cringes when I bring these in the house like this. There's a little, well, these were roots that came from down below. I'm just going to prune them off. I think I can safely raise this one in the pot, and it looks like the root base, especially from the proposed front, looks really cool. All right, so that's Lantana number 2. The next ones are a repot, so they're going to take a little more thought. I don't even have a pot picked out for them. So here are Lantanas number 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, I'm not expecting you to be able to see what's going on here. There's dead leaves. This has been in the greenhouse for, you know, enough time that it hasn't suffered outdoors, and I've been maintaining the temperature in here, as I said, in the 50-degree mark Fahrenheit. So what I want to do first is just hack away a little bit so that I'm not dealing with so much. I plan to go further, of course, but this is crazy. And like I said, I'm expecting the same sort of rebirth as I've seen in the past on this tree. What do I want? I probably want to take more than that away, but something's telling me not to. Nah, I have to. That could be a sacrifice, and there could be a nice trunk down there. That's what we're going to see today. This is dead, I think. And this is dead, I think. This is dead, I think. This is dead, I think. That's got Lantana number 3 pruned up. This one, you know, temporarily pruned up. For convenience sake only. This is a weird thing going on here. Yeah, I definitely don't want that. I'm just gonna, if I have to prune this better, I will. But for right now, and if there's one takeaway from this series, is that you got to get to know your tree. This is your tree. All right, that's kind of interesting. This grows up toward the inside. This grows up toward the inside. That's a rule breaker, isn't it? I like it. But you know what? I see some interesting, very quick movement there. I mean, that would be, if this was just a 90-degree bend in one direction, but this is a Z bend, and maybe I can relax it a little bit. But I think I'm going to cut this off. I'll leave a big stub, which I'll cut back at another time. There's a bud there that might develop, that might do something better. So let's see what happens. Didn't pick a front or a direction, so let me give myself some sort of options right here. This branch may come off altogether. I'm inclined to think it will. So I'm going to take it off now. And I think there's enough vigor in this branch to bud down lower. So I'm going to come right back to there. So that's got tree number 4. No, yes, number 4 pruned up. This is the one that grows tendrils. I think I've mentioned that before. They are super long. The leaves on this one are very, very small. It's a different variety. I've got to get rid of some crazy interference that happens right in there. Did it help me? Not much. This is an example of one of those tendrils. They just keep going. So this one could be a nice cascade. I mean, a serious cascade. I don't want to decide that now. This has got two coming out the sides, and I don't like either one of them or think that they have any place here at the moment. You may notice there's a fresh green bud down there, and this tendril coming out here. It's as close as I can get with this right now. And remember, just want to get a general direction with this pruning. This has to come off. This is going to be a little bit more than a general direction, but certainly a needed operation. All right, so there's my basic structure for this tree. Now let's get these out of the pot and see what the roots gave us. Let's get these out of the pot. I mention this every time I use this tool. My grandfather on my father's side was an artist, and this was his palette knife. And I'm sorry I'm not using it to paint, but I'm using it, and it's the best tool that I've ever found for this. Doesn't matter what pot it is. Look how thin that is. Wonderful and great strong steel. Thank you, Grandpa Jack. So these have been in here. It has to be the third year. Yeah, this is the third year that they've been in this pot. And there is a ton of roots. Don't know if this is traditionally a good time of year to do this, but I couldn't fit it in any other time. It's pretty dry. Well, I have been watering it here in the greenhouse. It doesn't look like it was taking on much water at all, which is probably why these leaves were falling off. So I got a bucket of water sitting here that I have a feeling I'm going to have to be using in order to separate these trees. These were, you know, from a nursery, you know, at the beginning of one spring, we went to a nursery and picked up some flowering annuals. And these were them, but I know, and I've seen Lantana bonsai. Whenever I find something that can be a bonsai, I find a way to make it my own. All right, this is going to be long and drawn out. I'll give you snippets of it, but I'm not going to bore you with this. Looking at the time, 2 o'clock. I got plenty of time. All right, I'll go in fast motion for a little bit. In this case, I have to decide what roots I want, what roots I don't want. So I can tell you right away, I'm not going to want these, and whatever drainage screens are in the bottom of this pot, I don't want those either. So that's coming out, and that'll help me rake out the bottom of this. I've got my absolute worst shears, or should I say best shears, for this process, because I don't care what these things bite into. I think we're going to have some nice trees here. You know, I still don't have these separated. So until I do, I don't know how nice the trees are. This is certainly a lot lighter. All right, I'm going to continue away, and then we'll do some root work. All right, these are almost ready to break away from one another. We might as well talk about that while it's happening. These are 3 distinct trees. As I said, they were part of, a summer's landscape. And because I had seen lantanas as bonsai before, I thought I could do something with these. So I've kept them alive since then. This is the 3rd year in this pot together. I just dug them up in the, in the fall, stuck them in that same pot I just took these out of, and that's been it. It's been like a thought process for me to, what am I going to do with these eventually? So that's where I am. I'm at eventually. So I've got to figure this out. I love that I have an audience to do this with. Luke is great, but he doesn't provide me much instant feedback. You all do, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your comments, and keep it up. You're keeping this old guy happy. All right, there's a lot more root mass that is totally unnecessary at this point. But untangling it and knowing where it's coming from, I mean, I don't want to cut roots that are coming from a direction that maybe I should have thought about it, before I did it. These are not coming apart, not easily. What you try and do is see if you can feel what's holding it. You can feel the general area, and then you can kind of dig in and see what's holding it. Doing what I just did, I found an area of soil that needed to be broken up just here. May help, may not help. I may end up having to just slice these away from each other, which I have done. Not always successfully. All right, this is mostly not soil. I've got to figure this out. At that point, I'm going to cut and pray to the root gods that they can salvage whatever it is I just screwed up. This is the other thing you do. You fish around on the bottom of the tree. You get to a point where, I don't want my root mass to be that much bigger than that anyway. And you just figure out what's holding it. When it's between the trees like this, it's not that easy. All right, this tree is free. I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna go stick it in water. It's gonna need quite a recovery period. Okay, what do I got here? That's the one I really hope survives. My mantra lately comes from Nigel Saunders. Many of my mantras have come from Nigel, which is every repot is an opportunity to get a better root base. And I may be paraphrasing there. Oh, and you can tell this was a cutting. And I'm going to have to do quite a bit of root work. Inevitably, when you grow trees together, they grow together. Oh, no. Look at that. Can you see that? There's some good stuff to work with there. Hope it's not too dry. All right, and most of this is nothingness anymore. Let's trace the roots on this big tree. I'm finding them one at a time. If there's something big holding it, that's what I cut. Interesting, right? Lantana, very stiff wood. Let me get this in water. A little dry. I'll take the barbs and the criticisms about how dry it is because it's my fault. All right, let me pick some pots.